I'd like to welcome everybody to Tech Tuesday. I'm Jim Bush, one of the managers at Datalink and Customer Support. This is our first Tech Tuesday of 2014, and we're glad you're able to take time out of your busy schedules to join us. Today we're going to cover what's new in NetBackup 7.6. Before we get started, I'd like to cover some quick housekeeping, then we can get this show on the road. Throughout the presentation, Datalink Principal Architect Juan Orlandini will be responding to your questions via the Q&A tool that you'll have on your computer. Juan's been in IT for over 25 years and with Datalink for over 18 years. The Q&A transcript will be emailed to all the attendees after the presentation. That way you'll get to see what everybody else has asked and the answers to those. The recorded version of this event is going to be available online shortly after the live presentation, and you'll receive an email with a link to it. If you have any questions after the event is concluded, please feel free to send them to techtuesday@datalink.com. At this time, I'd like to introduce Mike Spindler. He's Practice Director of Data Protection and Storage at Datalink, has over 17 years with Datalink. So he's well versed on the subject, so take it away, Mike.
Thank you, Jim. And thank you, everyone, for attending today. Today's topic is NetBackup 7.6 and what is new with 7.6. Okay. So let's get started. And as mentioned, type your questions as we go along, and we'll review a few at the end as well. We've waited a long time for 7.6. It's been a couple years since the last release, 7.5, and 7.6 became available on December 18th. And really where the focus is from a semantic perspective is in three different areas. The source workload area, where I'm able to address things such as virtualization as well as physical backup, being able to support different types of arrays with a replication director, and also the big data piece that's out there. The second area is freedom of storage choice, where your backup goes. You know, besides traditional tape and disk, there's also the appliances as well as the cloud. And you'll see many things updated in that particular area to address those needs. As well as general simplification. You'll see things in policies that have been modified in order to make it easier to use, make things a little bit more intuitive in managing the environment. So let's dive in and look at what has changed over in the 7.6 release. What we're going to go through in detail today is the vast advancement in the Vmware for VMs, Accelerator for VMs, where I'm able to run incremental backups and manage them as full, integrated completely with VMware, instant recovery within VMware right from NetBackup, being able to do bare metal restore from a physical to a virtual in VMware, as well as being able to back up all of the capabilities within vCloud Director, a new function within VMware. We'll look more in depth at Replication Director because I've added VMware support. Many of our clients leverage both NetBackup and Netapp, and there's some dramatic advancements in this area that we'll get into. For those of you that support Oracle and have become the Oracle wizards in writing scripts and being able to manage those scripts, changing them, having to fix them when you upgrade or put patches on, a lot of that has been simplified, and we'll see how they've added Oracle Intelligent Policies, as well as for the media server deduplication platform, the appliances or the deduplication you're doing with your own hardware. That's been improved via a new database in the media server, and we'll go through that. We'll also cover changes that they've made into storage lifecycle policies, as well as some new functionality for automatic image replication, or AIR, as well as highlight the 2012 enhancements for Windows 2012 that are supported in 7.6. Let's dive into the VMware piece. Accelerator for VMware is really a significant advancement in 7.6. We've had Accelerator for Windows and Linux and Unix, and it's been added into the capabilities of those being within VMware themselves. This gives me the capability of interfacing with VMware, using change block tracking, and being able to do things at a block level, being able to log those changes, have the backup run just what has changed since the last snapshot that was taken, and be able to leverage a full backup in the time that it takes to do an incremental. This is done at a variety of granularity levels, entire virtual machines, individual files or folders within those, as well as applications like SharePoint, SQL, and Exchange, including GRT capabilities even within SharePoint to get out particular documents or things of that nature. Let's look at the instant recovery within VMware. VMware Instant Recovery gives me the capability of being able to, if I have a VM that goes down and I need to recover it, I'm able to address that VM directly off my NetBackup server and power it up. No need to restore it first. It powers up directly within the environment and powers up directly off of the storage that it's sitting on. That storage can be disk, it can be advanced disk, it can be a variety of storage that's out there that you're already using, so there's no changes that need to happen there. Once powered on, that VM's available and using. At the same time, leveraging vStorage vMotion, you're able to move that VM back over to its data store on the ESX host and provide the availability. It's all transparent to the user and the capabilities out there. Let's take a look at how that works. It's for NFS, and if I want to recover a VM that's out there, I have it sitting on my disk, I have it sitting on possibly the appliance or some other type of storage within NetBackup. I power on directly off of, the way VMware sees what's sitting out in that storage is an NFS data store. It's powered on directly from there and then is moved via vStorage motion back to the ESX host. It appears, to be a VM residing in that area. All that needs to be done is it's powered on, and you're off and running from that standpoint. So fairly simple, and really this is a feature that they added that a few of the unique software products just for virtualization backup were doing in their most recent release, so they've come on par with that. This is, again, for NFS stores and being able to run that recovery. I can also be able to restore that file directly from the appliance to the ESX host, open it up, and then copy files directly from that VMware running there over to maybe an existing VMware that's there. Say you lost just a directory or a file within there. Gives you a lot of capabilities of being able to have a lot of leverage in getting that server up and running and getting it running in a fast and quick motion. Only limitation that you see in this is this can all be done from an appliance. If you do that, you have a Windows proxy that sort of manages on the Windows side the capability of being able to restore those files back and forth. NetBackup adds with vCenter 5 the capability, and NetBackup 7.6 the capability to manage and protect vCloud Director environments. Many environments are just starting to use this, and it's the capability of being able to set up virtual apps for an organization, for a group that can be sort of used on demand. Well, all of these capabilities are integrated into the storage lifecycle policies, and those capabilities can be backed up from NetBackup through the intelligent virtual policy. They've added the data center, the VApp, the organization, as all as objects that you can put into your intelligent policy for backing up those that environment. It works in both public and private vCloud Director implementations, and it even picks up all of the networking, virtual networking capabilities, so it restores everything to the right location under the right security and application capabilities that you have within VMware vCloud Director. So an exciting enhancement in there, and this is really leading in this area. Let's talk about Replication Director. Replication Director was announced in 7.5, and it was really the capability of integrating snapshots from your storage into NetBackup. If you are a NetApp user, you're very familiar with how easy it is to snapshot, snap mirror, do a variety of different snap functions very easily through the storage. From the NetBackup perspective, we're now able to integrate that into NetBackup. The real advantage that you get from that capability is, besides having all of the metadata, which files are backed up, when they were backed up, how long they're being retained, we get to manage that from NetBackup now. So it gives me a much easier means of being able to manage those snapshots once they have been taken, be able to get them mirrored from one array over to another, be able to present a single user interface from a restore perspective, so I can see, is this sitting on some backup storage, is this sitting on an appliance, is this sitting on a source array, or is it sitting over on a target array, and restore the copy, best judged from there. Capabilities in this area is it's integrated directly into VMware Intelligent Policies. It's really just a checkbox within the Intelligent Policies to tell it to use Replication Director. It can back up the entire virtual machine as well as the applications that are running in your virtual machine. So it can back up Exchange as well as SQL databases. This gives me the capability of being able to have the true GRT capabilities to restore those applications by table space or by a mailbox or things of that nature. Individual files or folders, again from the NetBackup restore interface, and all of that information managed and controlled through NetBackup, and really simplifies the process of managing your array and having the full capability of data protection managed in one pane of glass via NetBackup. It's all done through storage lifecycle policies, where you tell it to create a snapshot. Okay, take that snapshot and replicate that. In this case, with NetApp, it's Snap Mirror. All these capabilities with VMware and Replication Director for VMware are for NetApp today, and we'll see this coming across in other backup or storage platforms in the future. But today, this is NetApp only, and it's for file shares, so NFS capabilities. Take a look at how you do that and how the data flows back and forth between the two. As I mentioned, it's an NFS store, and I tell it which data center it's located in and the name of that volume that is sitting out there. How many backups I want to do and how many backups per host that I want to do, just as I normally would within my policies. On the NetApp side, that could be located across multiple data stores. It's really transparent to NetBackup from that particular standpoint. It uses the administration within the NetApp filer to communicate back and forth and do this in concert. NetBackup communicates directly to the ESX host, and really through an OST plugin is how Replication Director is communicating to the filer. That communications with OST all in a single snapshot operation is contained within your storage lifecycle policy. So it's telling me which data stores I want to back up, which VMs that might be, or how you manage your policies today is the way you move forward. The difference is the snapshot takes place, and then it is moved based on the storage lifecycle policy to where you need it moved to. Let's take a look at what we can do. We can have that capability to be the data protected, and in some of our testing and some of Symantec's testing can found that snapshots in this particular environment, you can do a couple, 200, 300 VMs in just a few minutes and be able to have data protection completed, at least from the source standpoint, in a very short time. From that standpoint, or from that point on, through the lifecycle policies, I perform the replication phase, which is really telling Netapp to snap mirror that from the source over to a target filer. I can also take it from that filer off to a physical piece of media. So I can store that for a longer period of time, and at the same time I'm able to use a function within Replication Director that will take that snapshot and index that snapshot. So I can index those snapshots into the database within NetBackup. That's what gives me that single pane of glass from the restore capability to be able to look at, I want to restore a particular folder. I can see that that folder is on this source Netapp filer. It was replicated over to a target or is sitting off on tape, and I'm really just looking at the folder I want, the time it was protected, and choose what to restore. At the same time, mixed into that same interface, it could be sitting over on some backup storage that's out there. One interface, multiple ways of being able to retrieve that information based on the specific time and type of information that you need. I can also deduplicate that, send that to a NetBackup appliance and perform deduplication on all of that data as well. So I have multiple capabilities and can leverage where I want to store it and how I want to store it, all managed through the storage lifecycle policies. And as I mentioned before, supports applications as well. They've added a few other enhancements for Netapp in that environment, and I'd like to just touch on those briefly. But for Replication Director, as I mentioned, it can manage the snapshot environment and be able to index those snapshots. It's been added in 7.6 is capability to do that to block devices now. So besides shares, I can now do this to Netapp block devices as well. I can also manage an Oracle environment and be able to provide consistent backups on an NFS-mounted Oracle share sitting out there. So I have consistency when I make that snapshot. One thing they did add to that has been lacking is, one of the best analogies I can give you is if you did a regular policy that was a standard or a Windows policy, you had the capabilities of specifying all local drives. Well, on the NDMP side of things within these policies now, I have the capability of adding wildcards to NDMP. Those wildcards within the NDMP now gives me the capability of being able to back up a particular volume and be able to back up volume 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6 and skip number 2. Where this is really handy now is as your filer grew and as you added different volumes out there to back up, every time you did that, you generally need to go to redo your NDMP policy to tell it specifically to back up particular things. Now, through the use of wildcards, I can have a little bit of granularity as well as you're also able to use excludes on that as well. And last, the storage lifecycle policies, which I really already touched on, of being able to manage those lifecycle policies as well. Wait for the next slide here. There we go. That completes Replication Director. Over on the Oracle side of things, there's a small daemon now that is in the NetBackup client. It talks back to the master, and if it finds Oracle on that particular client, it communicates back to the master information about the Oracle instances that exist on that client. Everyone, as I mentioned before, in writing all of these scripts, they've automated a lot of those pieces in order to assist and make it a lot simpler to set up protection in that Oracle environment. Improve the capability to schedule the operations that need to be done, such as backing up the database or when to back up the archive logs. And now the RMAN parameters are selectable within the NetBackup policy. So previously you had to point to a script to give it those particular attributes. Now you can do it right within the policy that's out there. It dynamically creates the RMAN script that gets submitted to the Oracle host in order to initiate that backup. As you can see here, under Applications, you have Oracle and you have instances. You point at that instance. I give it the credentials to be able to log into that environment, and tell it the type of data backup that I need to back up from that particular perspective. So a lot of capabilities within Oracle, and it's automated. All of this, you can do full incremental as well as your archive log backups. I can back up particular instances or the whole database or even particular table spaces, all from within the policy. It supports the compression, channel, and streaming capabilities, so you can tune that backup to maximize it in your environment. I mentioned that the media server dedupe, the performance has changed, and here you can see a wide variety of performance enhancements. The way they did this is for deduplication, you have a lot of metadata that sits out there. The database that manages that metadata has been updated in 7.6 in order to operate more efficiently. And as you can see, single streams or multiple streams have been able to increase 2 to 3, 4x times the performance that I had before, and still be able to improve the deduplication at the same time. So a lot of enhancements in this particular area. One of the original design philosophies between storage lifecycle policy model was deduplication should be run as soon as possible after the backup was run. In reality, many customers have found that you have a very busy environment. Being able to do that immediately after the backup, that deduplication process, as well as it contends with the backup resources that are out there. The replication contends with the capabilities that are out there. Now through the storage lifecycle policies, I can control the window of where I want to back that up. The window is applied at the storage operation level, so you can have different windows for different duplication targets within the same storage lifecycle policy. And here you can see where you select that. The same window can be applied to multiple storage operations and multiple SLPs. You can select a window from an existing list or create a new window when you create a storage operation. Deduplication jobs batch up the images to be duplicated. In the process, them in sequence. Where deduplication can be suspended and resumed, it is automatically suspended. When the window closes and resume the next time the window opens. Some types of deduplication, including optimized deduplication and ND&P deduplication, can't be suspended. By default, deduplication of the current image to complete allows, excuse me. By default, we allow the deduplication of the current image to complete, but we decide to terminate it at the moment the window closes. In this case, it will start from the beginning the next time the window opens. Any image that is not deduplicated before the window is closed is simply picked up and added to the workload list the next time around the window opens. So you can see a lot of optimization there. Automated image replication, or AIR, is a function that many of our customers have found very useful within 7.5 and the previous releases. One of the challenges with AIR is it was kind of an all-or-nothing implementation. If you're going to do a replication from a target, you had to replicate everything, from a source, you had to replicate everything over to that particular target. What's changed in 7.6 is now the capability of a new communications level. There is now what they call the Trusted Master Server. And what that capability gives me is the ability to selectively allow images to be replicated to different target domains. So in other words, I can move some data to one NetBackup domain and another target for that replication P to a second or third or fourth domain. So that gives me a lot more flexibility in being able to say what I am backing up and what I am moving over to AIR. Different retentions for each of those replicas you can have different retention for each of those replicas. In other words, I can have database data that I might only need for a particular short period of time have different retention out at my target site than I would for some file data that I might need to keep longer. Before you had to have the same for both, and now you can split the two apart within that same SOP that's out there. Target AIR is also allows you to select a storage lifecycle policy to use for import. This allows images from multiple source domains to be imported into a single storage lifecycle policy, irrespective of the name or data classification of the source SLP. Here's where that combo box has been added. Targeted AIR introduces a relationship between the source and target master servers. This allows them to exchange information when the storage operation is being configured. Interdomain master servers are defined in the source master host properties, and you can select target master servers from the list in the interdomain list server, as you can see here. This is only supported with Symantec technologies support AIR. It's not supported with AIR-compatible OST plugins at this time. So let's look at it because the picture is a lot easier to understand. If you look at this here, I'm able to take particular images on my master domain A from a particular NetBackup client, send that to a NetBackup appliance, have those images replicated over to NetBackup master B. And all the communications between the master's domains are kept intact. At the same time, that NetBackup client can take another image and replicate that to a second environment, NetBackup domain C, as you can see here. So really, the real improvement here is where before, when I did it from domain A to domain B within that lifecycle policy, I did everything that I backed up within that SLP to this one data center. I can now separate those. Physical virtual recovery with bare metal restore. This is now that I can take a Windows server and I can recover that, leveraging the bare metal restore console, and I can recover that in a virtual environment. So my physical environment goes down, I could spin it up as a VM within those environments. This is a great capability from a disaster recovery standpoint, and helps really lower that recovery time objective, in meeting your DR SLAs for those physical environments. This is a hot feature in this environment. It has a few limitations in the 7.6 release. Right now, it's supported for Windows VMs, and in the future, on the virtual side, they'll support Linux and Solaris in future releases. So for a Windows-type environment, this is a strong feature today and one that's been asked for quite a while. One of the things you'll notice when you upgrade to 7.6 is they had a upgrade checker within Windows. They've now added that as well to Unix. So it gives me the capability of being able to go out to the internet, check that there's particular emergency binaries that need to be added at the same time, and download those during the install. So the capabilities you had in Windows and 7.5, you now also have over on the Linux Unix side of things as well. Also does a lot more checking in the way of storage and resources needed in order to perform that upgrade, and manages that environment a little bit better than it did before in order to make a cleaner upgrade. Even looks at some of the environments within the Linux environment. Make sure I have some of the semaphores are high enough, and I have enough shared memory and things of that nature for that before proceeding ahead with the implementation. A few other tweaks in the SLP area. The lifecycle parameters, you used to have to do that to a file, and you manage that by editing that particular file. That now shows up within the GUI, and I don't need, so now I can see it all in one place, right from the master through the user interface. So they added those capabilities. If you're using the 5020 or 5030 NetBackup appliances, previously when you did restores, that restore came from the appliance to a media server and then to the client. The enhancement in 7.6 now gives me the capability of it going directly from the 5020, 5030 to the client that it was attached to, and it bypasses that media server in the middle. There's some logging that's been added for troubleshooting capabilities. Oops. Sorry. It jumped ahead of me. An import storage lifecycle policy on the air target node domain has been enhanced to allow you to automatically resume at a preset time. The SOP on the target domain, can use data classification for any, allowing some of the import SOP to import images with different data classification. So that's an added capability there. We talked a little bit about this, but there's now a directive under NDMP backup selection for all file systems that will automatically go and capture all file systems. So if you go and add another volume to your filer by having all file systems in your NDMP backup selection, I have a safeguard. They will automatically go and back up those volumes that are out there. So that was something that's been asked for a long time and has been added in the 7.6. They've also enhanced capability for the legal hold and search capabilities. From a separate server, you can set up a database that looks at all of your NetBackup images and creates a database for legal hold and search capabilities. This is done not on the master, but as I mentioned, on a separate server, so I'm not impacting that master server. So if you have particular situations where, for legal reasons, you need to maintain a particular set of backups and need to go find certain backups, this server here, having an independent search capability as well as indexing process, I can retain information for a long period of time in order to go back and look and find those backups that I need to retain for those legal purposes. So that's been added in 7.6 as well. Let's look finally at just some of the functionality. If you're running 7.506, you're basically getting all the functionality for Windows 2012 today. All of the enhancements that have been added up to 7.506 are in 7.6 and part of the base code. 7.601 is actually the release that was released in December and is the current release. We've added support for Solaris 11, compressed files under VXFS, some updates in DB2, and some versioning upgrades in VMware client support. They've also added a support agent for HANA, which we're just starting to see in some environments, so timing is good on that. So just in summary, there's been a lot of enhancements in the VMware side of things. Being able to do Accelerator, dramatically decrease your backup time by running a change block backup that can represent a full backup for that environment. Doing it the time it takes to do an incremental, performing a full backup in that VMware environment. It's recovery of VMware, being able to restore a VMware directly from the backup, right off of your backup storage. Being able to do bare metal restore of a physical Windows server to a virtual Windows within VMware, as well as all of the backup protection provided for vCloud Director of being able to back up virtual applications. Replication Director, integration with Netapp in particular in the VMware environment, as well as adding block support for that environment. This is for files as well as applications. The Oracle Intelligent Policies, really for the first time, instead of having to sit and write scripts and manage and control those scripts, you can do that through the policy creation within the NetBackup administration. Improved performance for media server deduplication provided in the Symantec environment, by a new database that manages the metadata for all of those blocks, unique blocks of data that is out there. It is more efficient, is able to scale for future technologies as well as run at a faster speed. The storage lifecycle policies that we went through, as well as the targeted error, being able to now not do the all or nothing when doing error replication, being able to, by policy, separate which images get replicated to which domains, and have only particular images within a domain replicated over at the same time, and as well as adding the support in 2012. Looks like we have a few questions, and take a minute here.
Thanks a bunch, Mike. That's a lot of good info. Juan, do you have any questions from the group that we can share at this point, or are we going to put them all out in the transcript?
There's actually quite a few, you're right. Let me unscroll this, and there was a number of them. Mike, do you happen to know if there's any limitations in what platforms, OS platforms, that Oracle Intelligence Policy is supported under?
I do not know the limitations off the top of my head. I would imagine, obviously the Windows and Linux support that's out there we can definitely look, get that information. I tried it under Windows and everything worked like a dream. So I didn't look under the other platforms. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I did not either. So I put you on the spot. Sorry. There's a couple of questions that came up multiple times that I'm going to try to address directly. One of them is, do you need agent installations on the VMs in order to support VMware Accelerator or even the VMware API backups? And the answer to that one is no. You do not need to install an agent on your VMs to do any of the VMware API-based backups or the Accelerator versions of the VMware API backups that got introduced in this release 7.6. That being said, you would need an agent if you are trying to take advantage of application-consistent backups in the VM. The agent is only utilized to do application quiescing, not to do any data transfer. That's on backups. On restores, if you want to be able to restore the data directly back to the VM, you would need to have the agent loaded on that VM so that NetBackup can communicate directly from the media server to that VM and restore the data to it. If you're restoring an individual file. If you're restoring the entire VM, naturally you would there's no agent communication on that. You just communicate directly with Virtual Center or the ESX server and place the data where it belongs. All right. There was, let me see. There was another question here that's something that I've heard quite a bit in the field and also in this presentation, is how to accelerate NDMP backups of some very large volumes. The question is there any specific functionality that's been added to 7.6 to accelerate backups of very large Netapp or EMC or other NAS vendors' volumes? And the answer is no. There's no additional functionality that Symantec has provided. But to be quite honest, EMC or Netapp or the other NAS vendors would have to add that directly themselves. The problem is an enumeration issue. You would have to enumerate the files that are on those large volumes or traverse the directories, so go down in each one of the individual directories and find all the files and identify them and catalog them and all that. And that's what takes a long time as opposed to the data transfer itself. So there's no additional functionality via NDMP. However, some of our customers have started to do accelerator backups of NAS volumes. The way they do that is they take a NFS share or a CIS share, mount it to a client machine or one of their media servers, and then back that mount via an accelerator rather than NDMP. And that, in some cases, has been extremely successful. Backups that used to take days have been reduced to hours, and that's a great thing. Now, to be fair, the first backup of it took longer, much longer, but once they were done with it, it actually worked better for them, because it's, the functionality of Accelerator is to do a full backup once and incrementals forever from that point forward. So that's an approach that some customers have been successful with, and something that you might want to consider if this is an issue that you're having. Let's see. Jim, do you see any other questions that are very, very common in here?
Juan, just a comment on those large NDMP backups. Is that part of, Juan does a lot of testing of capabilities and trying to find limits of environments, and coming up in February, we're working with Symantec to do some benchmarking. Was it the Accelerator benchmarking that you're looking at trying to show some of the differences for?
No, so the testing that we're doing the week after next is to just do a performance benchmark on how fast we can drive NDMP with 7.6 flat out, just how fast it can go. So we're going to end up configuring an environment with a large number of tape drives and a rather beefy Netapp box, and we're going to try to crank it up to 11 and see how fast that goes. And from that helps Symantec identify what and where the bottlenecks are for NDMP performance. So it's geared directly towards going to tape, but we'll be using VTLs and tapes as much as possible. So that's what we're shooting on that one. I do have a different effort that's going on with a customer where we're going to be doing a rather large backup of about an 8 terabyte volume that today is taking them upwards of 7 days to back up via Accelerator. I mean with NDMP, and we're going to move them over to Accelerator, so I'll have some hands-on testing on the customer environment here in the next month or two that I would be happy to share with customers if they're interested. So there's a large number of questions that I haven't gotten to in the background. I've been the guy in the background for the folks that are still on with us, trying to busily answer your questions. If I can't get to them before we conclude this presentation, I will follow up. And there was a question if this is going to be recorded and available for you folks. It is, and we'll send you the link as soon as we're done with this. There's also another thing that we're going to be doing is another Tech Tuesday coming up where we'll be doing a deep dive, and it'll be a live demo of a lot of this functionality, and we'll be going into more of the deep technical, how to set it up and what the issues are with a lot of this functionality. I don't think we'll be able to cover all of it because there's so much in this release, but we'll be doing that here shortly. We'll be sending out a notification here in a little bit about that session and the content of that.
Thanks a bunch, Juan. And just as a reminder, you can still send any questions after the event to techtuesday@datalink.com. And as Juan mentioned, the deep dive for NetBackup 7.6 is actually going to be scheduled for March 18th. February 18th is going to be a Tech Tuesday regarding Netapp CDOT, the differences between cluster mode and the classic. At this point, we're all set for today's session. I'd really love to thank everybody for attending today. We really appreciate your time. So y'all have a great day, and we look forward to seeing you again in a month. Thanks, everybody.